Got a few more people logging in now. Welcome. Hi, Jessica.
Hey,
Welcome on.
thank you.
My
How's
name.
everything looking? Do you have enough light? It's like really dark here already.
Yes, you look wonderful. I
Okay.
can hear you. That's always a good sign. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited we're doing this.
Oh my goodness,
This is
me?
my first I've done yeah, I've done like I haven't done a book club with a bookstore virtually. Like this is the first thing exactly like this that I've done. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I was like, it's definitely what we do is a little unique anyways. Doing like a webinar interview style book club every month,
Yeah.
like where we have a vast group of readers. I mean, consistently between 50 to 60 readers who like hop in and out every month. Every month it's like, in between 30 or 40 sign up to watch any given month. And then some of them join live. So we'll see how many show up live. Others get the recording the next day. And it's so fun because we just get to chat about our favorite books. And we always wait a couple months for them to be out so we can have everyone read and talk about spoilers and get into the
Yeah.
nitty-gritty of it. It's so
So
fun.
fun. How do you pick them? And yeah, how do you pick them? Are you the person who picks them?
I am not. So actually, tonight looks a little bit different for our guests because I'm our communications and events manager at the shop. So
Mhm.
I do all of our in-store events and planning, and we all do all kinds of literary themed things. And I do a lot of our
Fun.
interviews, but mostly are more in-store stuff than virtual. We have a book buyer who's dedicated to picking these books, Elizabeth, and she is actually currently at the Mountains and Plains Independent Book Selling Conference in
Oh yeah,
Denver. And
cool.
she's so bummed to miss talking to you because she loved your book so much. But she is in sessions all week long. And it's one of those, they like don't announce the date until way later. And we plan these out so many months in ahead. We're,
Totally.
we're like, it's great. But honestly, I was so fine to be passed off this interview. And
Yay.
I adore this book. This is also one our co-owner, Allison Frenzel, who also helps to co-host these a lot of the time, who's currently with her teenage son hosting some type of impromptu camp experience. I don't know. She was going
Oh,
into it because I was asked to do one thing. I now feel like I'm running a whole thing, so I don't know what's
no, it's
happening.
great. We're gonna do great. And I'm sure the thing in Denver is amazing because I went to the New England one and I went to Winter Institute, and it's like she's not gonna be missing this because
Yeah.
there's so much going on at those things. It's
Yes. Speaking
crazy.
of the New England one, last
So we're
month,
gonna be amazing. Yeah.
yes, last month, I actually hosted as well Travis Kennedy, who was at the New England Institute. And my first unofficial question for you tonight is, what do they put in the water up there for such great authors? Because I know y'all are from a similar area, and whenever we announced our book club for this upcoming month, on his interview, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I know her."
Yes, there were only like 8 of us presenting. He did such an awesome presentation too. I bet he was great. And I have to say, and we can get into this tonight. I don't know, like how familiar, like, are people familiar with the whole thing about Maine in Texas?
I don't know. I'm not.
Okay, there's this whole like literary. There are just all these writers in Maine in particular, and I have theories as to why. I mean, Stephen King.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Strout, but I have, but like so many, and I have some theories as to why. Like I think a lot of people, leave like I did, like leave more expensive places like New York
Yeah.
to live in a place that's sort of quieter and more affordable, so that they can write. But it's an oh Lily King, if you know this this book that just came out this week that I just finished, so amazing. It's the number one pick for Indie Next list for this month. It's called Heart the Lover. She lives in Maine. I mean, the list of writers in Maine, and we don't have that many people in this state, so
Yeah.
it's weird. Yeah.
Well, we love all the Maine writers. Actually, we joke all the time that if Elizabeth weren't a diehard Texas person, she would be living in Maine. She goes there every year. She's always at the New England Book Fest. I mean, just constantly
Oh,
traveling to the Northeast and connecting with authors. And we're like, that's so great, but we can only do virtual stuff with them most of the time. And so I'm our Texas boots on the ground. Let's find a
okay.
meteor kind of
Good.
person. But
Well, if it helps to know, at one point in my life, I almost moved to Austin. We were
oh,
very, very
wow.
close to moving to Austin. Yeah.
Very close, like an hour and a half. And
All
then you
right.
can go to the
I could
shop.
have come, but I wouldn't have written this book because I wouldn't have had this, experience
And
in Maine.
yes, I was like, so unsurprising, I guess, that your life influenced the setting quite a bit for this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Safe to
Okay,
say.
fun. All right, a few more people have hopped in, but since it is 7:03, I'm gonna
Mhm.
officially get us started, and
Right.
more people might hop in. But welcome to the Fabled Book Club. I am Kai, I'm the events manager, and I am so excited to be welcoming this month's pick, Jessica Berger Gross's Hazel Says No. Did I say that correctly? Is
A
it
million
pronounced
percent.
Gross?
Yeah.
Okay. um, for anybody that's new or hasn't tuned in before, just be warned, spoilers abound. So if you have not finished the book, now's the time to pop out. 24 hours from now, we're going to send you a recording of this conversation. And once you finish the book, then you can watch it and be all in the know. I have a very long list of questions that
Get
I
into
have
it.
prepped and prepared, but also we want any of our people tuning in. If you have a question for Jessica at any point throughout the night, drop it into the chat and we will try and feed it into the conversation as well. And again, this is being recorded and we'll send it to you tomorrow. And make sure to stick around to the end because I will announce next month's book club pick as well. But officially introducing Jessica Berger Gross. She is the author of the memoir Estranged, Leaving Family and Finding Home. Her essays have appeared in the New York Times Magazine, The Cut, Long Reads, and many other publications. She lives in Maine with her husband and teenage son, and Hazel Says No is her first novel. So for anybody who may have read this book a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, since it came out in June, can you start us off by just giving a brief synopsis of the book? And then also just let's start with hearing what your inspiration for it was.
Of course. Okay. Hazel Says No is about a Brooklyn family, clothing designer mom, Claire, American studies professor, dad, Gus, precocious tween, Wolf, who's about to start 6th grade, and his older sister Hazel, who's 18, who just turned 18. She's starting 12th grade, about to apply to college. They have just uprooted themselves from Brooklyn, New York, to move to small town, middle of Maine, because the dad, Gus, has gotten an offer to be a professor at the college there. And they feel it'll be cheaper. There's going to be a tuition subsidy for the kids for college, and Hazel's about to apply to college. And basically, they find a really cheap house that Claire falls in love with. But on the first day of school, Hazel's called down to the principal's office, asked a really awful question. She says no, and everyone's life changes from there. The family, all the dominoes fall for each member of the family in a lot of different ways, and then for the town too. And reverberations go all the way back to New York City later on in the book, as anyone who, once you read it, So, and then inspiration wise, okay, 10 years ago, my family moved from Brooklyn to Maine. And I have lived in a bunch of different places. I didn't realize what a big change it would be, naively. I think sometimes when you can get in a car and move somewhere, it just doesn't seem like super duper extreme. But we weren't moving to like hipster Portland. We were really moving to an ideologically diverse town in the middle of the state. A town with a lot of problems, a town that is scruffy, lovable, amazing in so many ways. This is my real town, but also like riddled with all the problems that are facing our country today, in a big way. And so but there's so many funny things too. And I love A Fish Out of Water story, Anne of Green Gables. Those books were like some of my very favorites as a kid. And then TV shows like Schitt's Creek or Northern Exposure, if any of you are old enough to remember that one, where this guy goes from New York City to a small town, Alaska. I just think it's so funny when you take someone and you put them in a different context and they have no idea what they're doing. That was us. That was me. And chaos did ensue. This didn't happen to my family, but I have heard so many stories of this kind of thing happening. So I was very, I mean, we all have. So I was very interested in the idea of someone saying no and what would happen and giving the agency to the student rather than the principal. And then I also just wanted to mostly explore the dynamics of this family and this town.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so crazy. So my first question is because I mean, first line you kind of know exactly where, I mean, the title kind of gives it away, but you know when you meet Richard White that this is scumbag. Like this man is awful. But you made the quote unquote event of him asking that question and Hazel saying no such a tiny part. It's the whole main action that kickballed it is the first chapter, and that's it. Can you talk about your decision to not expand and make big on Richard's actions and
Yes.
rather focus on Hazel's response?
Totally. And that's why his nickname is Dick White. um, so in the beginning, I had even contemplated, yeah, I was very interested, like as all the Me Too stories were rolling out and Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey and Ronan Farrow were doing their respective journalism for the New York Times and the New Yorker, and people's stories were coming out. I was just really interested in not the perspective of the perpetrator, but the perspective of the person who was speaking out, of the survivor. At one point, though, I did explore focusing somewhat more on the principal and even maybe having a POV inside his head, because I was sort of interested in like, why would someone do that? And then I quickly decided, no. Jessica says no. I'm actually not that interested. There's everyone else in town is more interesting to me than that person. And, you know, sometimes we are going to have bad actors and bad men specifically. I mean, you know, bad anyone, but there are people who are going to do bad things. I wanted to have empathy for his family, and that's why I brought in like the, you know, the daughter, his daughter and wife, soon to be ex-wife. But it gave me the ick. I didn't want to. I just didn't want to. And what's great about fiction is you don't have to. And then it was also like, you know, there are lots of Me Too stories, and My Dark Vanessa actually takes place in Maine and is a very different. It's sort of like the flip side of Hazel Says No. I think of Hazel Says No as like a sunny My Dark Vanessa. And also just the difference that Hazel Says No. So I really wanted him to like, you know, that cane that takes people off the stage?
Yeah.
That was the cane. And we do find out like what goes on through the newspaper articles with the Riverburg record, but I just didn't want to focus on him. And so I didn't. And the other thing was, I really wanted to have the book be, you know, touching, emotional, and heartwarming, yes, but also funny. And yeah, he's not very funny, you know, but Hazel and her family are funny.
Yes, Hazel and her family are very funny. This cast of characters has quickly climbed to the top of one of my favorites. Like I've seen reviews even where people are like, this isn't family that you're gonna fall in love with. And immediately, yes, they each have such distinct personalities. You're rooting for them at sometimes, you're angry with them at others. You're like, get it together, please, at so many points during the book. And I wanted to ask about their dynamics, especially with your background, having first written your own memoir about your family, and how did you take things from your own life and put it into their family, or kind of what you wish had been in your family into their family to create those dynamics?
That's such a good question. Um, Sometimes it's hard not to read those like Goodreads reviews. And there was one person who, it was a pretty bad review, and she was like, the only person acting like an adult in this family is Wolf. That's all the only, that was the full review. And then it was like 1 star. And I was like, yeah, you know, like, of course, like that's the whole point, is that these are all imperfect people making a lot of sometimes bad choices. They're all trying to be good though. So your question is so good though, because thank you, Lisa. I love Wolf. He's a lot of people's favorite. Mine too. So my memoir is a very different kind of book, and there I guess are like a few funny parts, but it's kind of sad. And that's what my family was like growing up, right? But the family I have now, and it's me, my husband, our 17-year-old son, our dog Franny, our previous dog Salem, when I started the book, RIP, is like the family in the book. Now, I'm not going to say, like my husband will want me to say, he is not like Gus. He is a professor. He's a sociology professor. My son Lucian is almost Hazel's age. He's in 12th grade now. He was Wolf's age when I started like my first draft.
Wow.
So that was like the voice in my head. He's much more like Hazel now than Wolf, but the humor, the warmth, and the sharpness, and the kind of like, so I'm from Long Island. If you do go back and read A Strange, and what in Long Island we call like busting balls. You know, I don't know how to say it like in Texas or in Maine, but giving each other shit, you know, basically.
Yes.
It's that sharpness, but with profound love and care. And that was very different from the background for the family I grew up in. There was physical violence, emotional violence. It was pretty cold feeling. And it was kind of scary, honestly. And it could be terrifying. As much as there were some moments of care and warmth, it's just like the flip side of what I've tried to create in my adult family. And that's the family I wanted to see on the page. I didn't feel, and also there's something about like this Jewish American family that's not religious, but is like culturally very Jewish, and also that is bringing their New Yorkness to Maine. That's something I found interesting, because I think that things that hold a lot of currency in New York don't necessarily hold currency in small town Maine, and vice versa. And I'm very interested in that kind of interplay.
Yeah. So interesting. I was going to ask specifically about Wolf, kind of how it was to be in the mind of a preteen boy, because I was like, I would assume kind of have a little bit of relation to Claire, being a mother to a child and also being a wife. And obviously Gus and your husband have some similarities. And now it's fun to know that your son, Lucian, kind of inspired Wolf a little bit, both at the young age and so how long did it take for you to write the book?
Okay, so I got the idea, and I always think of it from what grade Lucian was in. He was starting 6th grade when I got the idea, and then I did like big rough draft where I had so many different POVs. I had an across the street neighbor, the rabbi had a POV, the principal had a POV. It was like 8 to 10 POVs, total chaos. And then COVID happened, and I was like, I can't write this book because I have to now like educate my child at home and stuff like that. And then Disney Plus came. I have a friend who was like, no, this is the perfect time for you to continue writing your novel. And Lucian would in the morning watch a movie every morning, like before we'd start like educate, you know, before I would like start like school with them while I was writing. And then Kai, I put him to work. He went through my mammoth draft and did what, and this, yes, he was spring of 6th grade, did a chainsaw draft where he's like, I'm going to take out everything that's not plot. And he just would like slash the manuscript. It was actually really, really helpful to have someone do that. Even a 6th grader, maybe especially a 6th grader. And so I probably sold it when he was like January, when he was in 10th, and that's how long it takes for, you know, publishing to like produce a book. But that's, you know, a long time, partly because I was teaching myself how to write a novel. Like I rewrote it so many times because I had to learn how to structure a novel. It's really different than writing a memoir where you're just kind of like telling a story start to finish. I tried to have chronology be my friend here too, which is something my memoir editor had taught me. But because I wanted each of the characters to have really strong plot lines, like almost like little separate books that are woven together, that took a lot of figuring out a lot of doing, you know, a lot of rewriting. So yeah, so when I started, I did have a snarky 6th grader at home. So actually Wolf's was the easiest voice. Like Wolf was, and I think maybe because of COVID and because he was home for that semester and then like hybrid that next year or however the school did it here. I mean, we're also just very close, and especially even when he was at school, I had to pick him up at like 2 or something. So he was home a lot. His voice was in my head. He's a very, very smart person. But when he was younger, you know, like a tween boy. He was like much snarkier now. He does remind me much more of Hazel because he's very just like sweet and good to the core and like looking to like make the world better and all of that. But um Hazel's a lot like me too. She's like a younger version of me. And even, Gus is like a little bit inspired by my husband or other academics I've known, but also like Gus I can relate to too. In the beginning of the book, when he just wants to like close his office door and get his work done, I was relating to that. Maybe because I was home with COVID, everyone was home in my house. So I tried to find the me in all of them. Wolf's whole drama club thing, that's totally me. I was a theater kid growing up. That's really how I learned to write fiction because I didn't know. I actually am not like, I have not taken a creative writing class since high school for real. So what I do is I just read, and I analyze and like figure it out. And I would think about what my drama teacher taught us about like kind of, how Wolf goes method. I was going method to find each character's voice.
That is so interesting. Also, the theater kid to book adult pipeline is so real. It's so I am very much theater kid, but I was production side, which works so well working in events. And
Techies are the coolest. Like crew is where it's at.
oh, but stage management, it's
Oh, I was a stage manager too. I mean, there is no better training in high school for anything than stage managing a musical, right?
Seriously. Oh my gosh. I'll never forget stage managing The Little Mermaid, the musical. I was actually talking with a friend the other night because there was so much glitter on the set design of that show that I had glitter in my bags for years.
Oh,
and so anytime I see glitter, I'm just like, Little Mermaid.
I would have dreams about like losing my tech book that had the lighting cues and like you just don't know what the lighting cues are. But you know what, Kai, actually, much like if that could help you run events at a big bookstore, being a stage manager is like writing a novel because you're like mastering puppets. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh
never
my
thought
God.
about that before. That's good. That's really
So
good.
fun.
Yeah.
We've had revelations tonight.
Already. Yes.
All right. I want to talk about Hazel.
Okay.
So obviously she is like our main character. There's a cast of characters, but really the story starts and ends with her. And from again, page one, you pick up on Hazel's intuition. And that's something that I really loved and I felt was so important for the story and carried throughout the entire story is there are different pulse points where Hazel said no multiple times. She first
Yeah.
said no to Richard, then she said no to Noah, then she said no to the book deal. And then it's not till the very end when she says yes to something. But in the middle of every single one of those moments, again, we're inside of these characters' minds and you're trying to figure it out with them and you know what you want them to do, but you also don't know if they're going to do it or how they're going to do it. And they're also like blaming themselves along the way. And Hazel specifically listens to her gut every single time. And I wanted to ask if that was an intentional factor that you put in there and kind of how you landed on that being such a dominant feeling for Hazel.
It kind of in a way goes back to how you brought up my memoir and the difference between the family I was raised in, like the family I have now. I do think about like it's so amazing to see my son, like thrive. It's not like obviously he has problems and challenges. It's really hard to be a teenager these days or ever. But I do think, oh, it's really different if you have supportive parents. It's just different. It's just a really different, situation you're in. And and so I do have some kind of fantasy of like, oh, like what would my life have been like, when I was 18 or 25 or 28 even if I'd grown up in the kind of family I've created and kind of like would I have said no to my dysfunctional family situation earlier in terms of becoming estranged and like finding my own, health and happiness, as corny as that sounds. So I just wanted to, I think in some ways, like Hazel was a perfect victim in kind of messed up ways. Like she's able to sort of go viral because she's white and pretty and like more kind of connected or just even comfortable in a sophisticated environment of New York City media. Um, but I think the deeper thing too is she just has this presence of mind, partly because of her what's been inculcated in her from her parents, um, to speak up and know that like she will be listened to, believed, and and I don't think you necessarily have to have. I don't think that that is really something that has to come from, oh, that she, had some material advantage, or even that you have to have parents who do that for you, because ultimately I think I did that for myself too, just maybe a few years later. Like, it's an inner resilience that so many of us find, and honestly we kind of all have to find, especially now. I mean, this is about like a petty tyrant, a local authoritarian, and now it's like so much broader than that. So that idea of being able to say no in so many different kinds of ways. Yeah, I love that you mentioned the Noah one. I don't always think about that. I always think about like the no, obviously, to the principal, and then the no to the book. But the Noah no is really important too, because that gives her so much more agency, and I think it makes it so much more beautiful when they do kind of like kiss and get together at the end, because it is what she wants, and it's real, and she's not feeling used, and she's feeling yeah, in control of her desires.
Yeah, I feel like it really opened up the recognition of like the conversation that needs to be had by people about choosing, making choices for yourself, and not just going with what you're told to do by
Mm.
the people above you, around you, and like really like taking a moment to think for yourself as a person. And I think Hazel does that so well throughout the book. And yeah,
And what's nice too is like I admire Hazel's thinking of others along the way, because it would have been so easy for her to just do the book,
yeah.
take the money and run, take the fame. Like, that's super heady. But I really appreciate her thinking about Grace and all the other repercussions, and also thinking about herself too, and how she ultimately wants to make a name for herself as a writer. So yeah, I always think, no is like as big a power move as yes, and no can be very, very important, because when you say to no to one thing, like that directs you on your path to saying yes to something else. You can't say yes to everything. We can't go down more than one path at a time, really. So, um, the no's are very, very, very important in life.
Yes. And again, a reason why I love this book so much, I grew up in a culture where you didn't say no. And it wasn't
Mm,
until later on where I was like, oh, wait, you can. And not only can you say it, it's also a full sentence. And so to have stories out there that engage with the no's and show the good of them, it's like, I
yes.
know it was super special for me as a reader. So thank you for that.
You're
Um,
so welcome. And it's been, I've had people come up to me and say, yeah, just all kind of stories. I was really amazed. This one woman came up to me and she's like, this happened to me in such and such a town in Maine in 1968, and I was in the ninth grade. And she actually said no. It was like, whoa. And she went home and, she told her dad, and he called the principal. And so that's the thing too, for us to create, family, friendship circles, third spaces like the bookstore, like libraries, where you can go tell someone what's going on, because that
yeah.
was a key thing too. Not only could Hazel say no, she could come home and tell. Though, of course, she may, at times regret that. But I do think it's still good she got her parents involved, even though they were not perfect about how they handled everything.
Yeah. One thing that I think was really interesting about each of the characters is that, and again, throughout the book, it unveiled like just the depth of the community that they had with each other. But in so many spaces, they each felt so alone and no one understands, and also just placing blame on themselves for the situation or how they responded to the situation. And I just wanted to ask, like, what does it what's it like as an author to have to emotionally balance all of these characters, especially with the chaos within each other?
Yeah. I would just, well, the thing that's really nice about the rotating POV with the family, um, and I'm so glad I was able to like kind of get away with it in the sense that like I feel like it's a little different than the norm. Like maybe, some editor might have been like, oh, well, can't the whole book just be from Claire's perspective or Hazel's perspective? But I think that it's really important in this story to hear from each member of the family and that they're each experiencing what happens differently.
Mhm.
And they're also contributing to what happens. So emotionally for me, it was really fun and freeing after writing a memoir, but it was, yeah, that's where the whole method drama club theater training kind of came in of like, let me really think about what this is, how this plays out from Wolf's perspective, from Gus's perspective, from Claire's, and from Hazel's. And I don't know. I was a psychology major in college. It's some kind of combination of like psychology, drama, empathy, and just like transporting my mind into my characters. But there was a lot of work to really like nail down the characters, and especially Hazel, because although there was a lot of like young me there, Hazel is different from how I was when I was young, and also I wanted her to feel culturally of the moment. So I actually had someone who is very hazily, who was a college student at the time, who read some early drafts for me and kind of we had some conversations. That was really helpful. Um, but I don't know, digging deep. And it was emotional. I mean, I did and do feel quite emotionally connected to the characters. And I think to make it, I love a novel that feels real, where almost like the real world goes away and like the book feels like the most real while you're reading. And to do that, I think you really do have to find what's true in yourself and then like apply that to each character through their filter of who they are.
Yeah, well, you did an incredible job because this is one of those books that just sucks you in and you feel like you know these people. I'm a very like character driven reader in general. Like I love a good plot, that's fun, but I'm there to emotionally attach to the characters, whether that's healthy or not? And again, these ones just from the jump, every single one of them just like digs into your heart a little bit and breeds such empathy. And I really loved also throughout how your like different chapter titles kind of gave sneak peeks at kind of what to expect next. Because also you jump time a little bit sometimes, like it's all within a year, but it's just like you're jumping a little bit of time, you're jumping from the point of views. But one of the biggest switches where you feel kind of the turning point of the book where things start, you kind of feel like things are about to get better. They don't really, but they feel like it. And you're like, okay, I can be excited. Like it's not all doom and gloom. We're past the worst of it. Was the chapter with Maxine Joy called Main Character Energy.
Yeah.
And when I say I live my life by the main character energy mantra, like all the time, I'm like, get into main character mode, like. And so, first of all, what was the inspiration by the titles? Like, did you pick those? Did you have those in mind before you wrote the chapters, or did you go back and find the nuggets that you wanted to use to represent them?
That's such a good question. I mean, it's a little bit like the title of the book, which I did get the title before I started writing. Like the title gave me the confidence to write. So there's sort of like mini versions of that. Like you know what's going to happen in the book. Hazel says no, and each chapter is foreshadowed. I wanted the pages to really turn, and I wanted to get that feeling where like you can't put it down, and so you get to the end of one chapter and like you have to turn the page, and I feel like the chapter titles do some of that, but it also was fun to pull out like what's the nugget from this. The main character energy, that's one I didn't come to until very late. It was something else and I changed it. I can't remember exactly, but I have to say that chapter in the chapel at the college and the Thanksgiving chapter, Those were the two that were like the two big set pieces, like the most going on, and I feel like were the most like turning pointy, where and hard to figure out how to do like technically and like to make it really work. And I remember it's funny that you call out that chapter because I remember getting like chills at one point when I was like locking that chapter in because I was like, oh, I just felt, I don't know, I just felt something. Like it felt, I don't know. I felt like it felt beyond, it was like, the magic through the fingertips, and that does not always happen, but sometimes if you're lucky, you can be a conduit to that. And that was it. And like, I felt that scene so much, and I had experienced things actually in the chapel at the college here, some like very rousing speakers. And I just wanted to like juxtapose I wanted to stick Hazel into that situation and have her feel that. And then it's also just interesting because the chapel is like those kids are totally they have a different, they don't know what's going on. They're not reading the Riverburg record. So it's just um yeah, but the chapter titles were really fun to have, and it felt a little bit risky. It's a little bit sort of like old-fashioned. And there's a little bit of a question mark, like, should we do it or not? And I really held firm that I thought we should. And I'm really glad we kept them, and I'm hearing lots of positive feedback. But I love them, and I feel very sentimental about them. They were really fun to come up with.
Yeah, they were, I mean, they were fun. They did everything you planned on doing, you executed flawlessly, by the way, because they really do like snag you into the next chapter. I mean, I read this in two settings, maybe three. I was like, just because, random things happen and did not want to put it down, but then I came back and I was like, okay, like keep
I
going.
love
And
that.
it's just very unput downable, and the pacing of it was just so good. Um, Another big aspect of the book that is just uh so interesting is how towards the end I feel like you get really close to the last few chapters before all of the kind of reconciliation of each of the
Mhm.
characters starts to get into gear. And part of me was a little worried. I was like, is this like the first of something? Like, it's like I was like, there are too few pages, and I feel like so much is kind of like needs to happen still to like
Like, is
really.
this the first of a series? And
Yes,
like,
I was like,
okay.
I was like, is this gonna settle? Like, I don't know. I was like, I'm happy to read more from this family, but I was, yeah, so
Felt that so much bad stuff was happening that I thought we deserved a happy ending, a happy-ish ending. That felt really important to me. So, but it's funny what you said about the series because when I was writing it, at one point I was like, what if each of the characters has their own book, but like in different time periods? And like in 10 years, Wolf is running for mayor of New York City, and
I would
Wolf
read that
runs for
book.
mayor. And I think that's because by the end, I felt so attached to the characters that I can't say, like, I didn't want to fully say goodbye to them. Um, and so I hope you feel like I left them all in. I think when you're ending anything like an essay, a book, whatever, you want to like, you don't want to tie it up in a firm bow. You want to kind of like conclude but open. You wanted to
Yeah.
like feel a sense of closure, but also a sense of opening and possibility. So that's where I wanted to leave the characters. I'm very excited for Claire about, Pickle the store,
Yeah.
and very excited for Hazel about all that's in front of her. And Wolf is very much going to be okay, and Gus is like digging in
I'm ready to
on
have a
that hill.
future. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, it was fun to do the end. It was fun to get kind of like allow myself to be like a little lyrical toward the end and have it kind of like become, hopefully just like very like emotional and just almost slightly poetic at the very end.
Yes, and it left it feeling so hopeful, which
Mhm.
I again just like really appreciated as a reader. Because yeah, again, they go through so much in the one year that this book
Yeah.
encounters. encapsulates, and you feel for them every step of the way. And so for each of them, uniquely in their own story, but then also collectively as a family, to end in such a hopeful place. It was, yeah, it was so nice. And I definitely felt like it concluded, but was also like open. And I definitely would read a book about
Any
Wolf
of those others.
becoming a mayor. That just,
Wolf runs for mayor. I mean, I have like I don't know. I'm just like a hopeful person, I guess. Like I find hope among, I don't know, like the rubble. Like it's, I can't help but see like pockets of joy and hope all around. And bad things can happen and we can still have like lots of good that connects us. And I at least want to believe that. I want to find that. I want to see it. I want to make more of it. And I love how the characters are all trying to matter more. That's like something I love about the family is that that they're trying to be good and they're trying to matter.
yeah. So good. I am curious, because again, you hit on so many very specific topics throughout the book as well, between just the child grooming, the racism and anti-Semitism in the book, as well as just a lot of the conflicts amongst the family and even just like the mental load of people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so curious on what kind of feedback you've gotten from readers. I hope you've received mountains of great feedback. If not, I will just sing your praises forever, because again, so wonderfully done. But also, in today's society, everybody has a comment about everything. And kind of how are you fielding any feedback that of people that like, you didn't write this correctly,
Yeah.
or you didn't portray this right, or why would you dare write about victim mentality,
Yeah.
those types of things.
Um, that's a really good question. Well, my number one concern is that people in my town's not called Riverburg, but people in my town, it's very obvious reading the book that my real town has inspired this fictional town. My number one concern was that people in our town would feel that it was a fair and loving portrayal because I love my town here, and the people in it. And I'm very happy to report that I was actually just out at an event in the town square, like literally in the town square with Gilmore Girls last night, and I was hearing from so many people who had read and loved it. Like people loved it and here and loved the references. And I actually had someone. I was in my backyard with my dog in my pajamas one day, and as one does, and someone came up to me and she was like, "Oh." My yard's like very open to the street. And she's like, "Oh, over the fence." She's like, "Oh, I've been waiting to find you in your backyard. Um, I think it's okay for me to say this." She was basically said that when a similar situation had happened, she hadn't thought immediately to believe the person, like the young person in question. And she, like reading this book, changed the way she thought about things. And she was really grateful for that. And I thought that was incredible because I thought there might be anger in that way, or just like
Yeah.
writing about Maine as an outsider. So I'm really, really happy that actually like people here have just embraced the book, like in my town, in my state. Um, there are always going to be a couple things like I shouldn't look at any of the online reviews, but sometimes I can't help it, like just like, on Goodreads or Storygraph. Well, Storygraph is just more Goodreads, I have to say, where it'll be like, very occasionally there's someone who's like, well, this is just really woke, or, why are the parents these parents are annoying or something like that. And that's just, during election cycles, I like to go canvassing and knock on doors, and it's like, and do phone calls and stuff. And there's always going to be someone who like yells at me, like it's really rude. And 99% of other people, whether they're into my candidate or not, are going to be lovely and gracious or just like interesting to talk to. So I can't let that stop me, right?
Yeah.
I feel, well, one thing I should note, I haven't studied creative writing since high school, but I do have a master's degree in public policy, and I'm just like kind of like a politics, junkie, but like I'm really, Like when I wake up, I listen to the Daily and, like the New York Times, political update. So politics is always just top of mind for me, and I'm very interested in how it plays out in a community. Um, so it's okay. I mean, not everyone is gonna, this is definitely like my take on things. And of course, not everyone's gonna have my take, but I think like people are so much more um up like, I don't know, into it or appreciative or taking, like
Yeah.
embracing of Hazel than I thought maybe they would be actually. So I've been like pleasantly surprised, I'd say, in that way.
That's so great. And again, working in the book world, we see stories of all kinds come through, and it is just at Fabled specifically, one thing when we're looking at books, when we're choosing authors to host for book clubs or host for events or whatever the case is, books that we are putting in front of our readers. And I mean, we're readers ourselves, so we're the first ones on the line, getting the advanced copies read and, all the things. And the first thing we're looking for is, does this steward empathy? And I
Mm.
mean, from get go, this was one that immediately was a flag of like, this is a fabled book. This is one we're going to love, adore, promote, talk about. And so thank you so much for writing it. I only have two more questions for you because we're running out of time. I'm a bit of a yapper. So
Thank you for saying that. That means so much to me. And maybe my fear about making sure people in the town felt it was like a fair and loving portrayal.
yeah,
Yeah, I wanted it to be like an empathy machine.
well done. Last two are a little bit more chummy, normal author
Okay.
questions. One, what are some books that you have been reading recently that you would recommend, or just some all-time favorites?
I have a really good, I've been thinking about this because I'm always pushing books on my friend. Something on my friends. One thing that just came out in paperback that I really loved last year is Danzy Senna's Colored Television. That is a very sharp, very funny book. Fun fact, she's married to Percival Everett, who wrote James. You could
Wow.
read them together. I mean, what a dinner party that would be. So that's Colored Television, very funny, very smart, takes place in LA. I read a book this summer. Have you read The Safekeep yet
I have,
by Yael van der Wouden? I believe is how you
I
say it.
have
I know
not.
that sounds very fancy, but it's over
I was
here.
like, yeah, I was like, I can picture the cover.
Okay. It is so good. And here's the thing. I really suggest you don't read much about it before you actually read it. This is one of the ones you just have to trust me. I have a friend who everyone I've had read it loves it. And I just the friend who inspired the rabbi in the book, I was like, you have to read this. And she read it and she was like, Jessica, this is one of the best books I've read in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and then the book I just finished earlier today, you probably know about this one because it's the number one indie next pick
Yeah.
for the month. And Lily King is actually a main author. This book, oh my, does it create actually these are both very sexy books and very, very literary books at the same time. Wow, those are two good books. And then one book I'll just say throw in at the end that kind of was one of the inspirations for Hazel is my all-time favorite Zadie Smith book from a long time ago called On Beauty. And I had read that when it came out. I read it again while I was writing Hazel. My son just read it this summer and he loved it. It's like just a great campus novel.
Oh my goodness. Such great recommendations. The Safe Keep definitely need. I love to go into a book blind. Like that is always something fun.
Please
So,
let me know if and when you read it. It's really, really special. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. So that
so
says something. And oh, by the way, I have to say, I think the reason people know about Hazel is really because of independent bookstores. The Indie Next list, my publisher sent me to Winter Institute. That was like so, so amazing to meet all these booksellers. And then to the New England like conference, the NEBA. But it's funny because I think at one point as a writer, it's like you're like, oh, reviews and press and all that. No, it's booksellers and the buyers at the bookstore and the people on the floor who are recommending books. That's where it's at, and that's how people get to know like what to read. I mean, that I just am so inspired by what bookstores are doing for our communities today, really, including one in in my town, downtown, like walking distance from my house. We used to not have an independent bookstore, and now we do, and it's, changes the fabric of Main Street.
Yeah. Well, Fabled is Waco's only independent bookstore, and it really is just, I mean, I am in daily awe of the community of it and just how incredible it is. And being one of the people that works there, like it's my full-time job, and that I'm so grateful for that. And to read books and interact with readers and interact with authors, it is, I mean, it is so incredible. And yeah, it's so fun both ways, because at the end of the day, we're all just people craving community.
Yes. And
And yeah,
and I mean, we all have so much in common because we love books.
exactly.
So
You
everyone
have
on
to
every
find that.
side of the, yeah,
Yeah.
booksellers, writers, the people who come, like the customers. Um, it's was it John Green, the is that the YA author who also does like a million other, like he has
Oh yeah.
very YouTube. Okay, so he
You
came and spoke at the con, and he was talking about like how radical it is to take time to read at this point in life. Um, and it's so true. Just like when I went on the porch on Sunday and I just got lost in this book for a couple of hours, and it does feel radical to put our phone away and like
yeah.
to, yeah, and then to then be able, the next step is to go to a place where you can talk to someone about it. So
Yeah.
it's so amazing that you're doing this. It's so cool also, Hazel is a book that, kind of in a way it's about this family that moves from New York to Maine, right? And here you are in Waco, Texas, like relating to it. And that
Yeah.
shows the power of empathy and the power of storytelling.
Yeah. I joke all the time, and also thank you, Janice, for the compliment about doing a good job on the interview. I was like, I joke all the time. I was like, I have friends all over the country now because I meet them at the bookshop or I meet them virtually. I was like, I have a person in almost every major city I can think of to visit, to grab a lunch with if I'm traveling, because of books. And it's so
Yeah.
fun. Speaking
Yeah.
of, last question here, the always common, what are you working on next? Can we see anything else from you?
I am working on something. I'm working very hard on something. I shared this thing with early readers, and I just took the big step of sharing what I have with my agent, and he's like gaga over it. And so we're very excited and emailing back and forth and like adding things and working on it. And uh, it was funny. I was thinking kind of going into this tonight. Oh, it's so funny to talk about Hazel Says No because right now I'm thinking so intensely about this new thing. But it'll take like I have half of this new, like it's gonna be,
Yeah.
we can't talk about it for a few years, but I can get you an early copy when it's ready. Even that will be not for a while, um
Don't worry,
but
my TBR is very long.
great. So I can be at the bottom. But I can tell you that it's not going to be, Wolf Runs for Mayor or anything like that, but I am going to have some universe crossovers and some cameos and some pop-ins because I can't just completely let go. So
Yeah, I love it.
look forward to
Lisa
that.
said Wolf says yes, question mark. That would be
That is so
fabulous.
funny. That's actually such a good idea because Wolf is so snarky and Hazel Says No, so to like have him do full circle. Wolf says yes. That would be so funny. By the way, Janice says the safe keep was so good. Wolf says yes. And Lisa can't wait to read the new Lily King. Now, I love all of Lily King, but this is the one. If you're going to read one Lily King, like that's the one. Um, yeah. And you get to read things early, so that's very exciting too. Is there anything coming down the pike that you can tell me about that I might not have read yet? What are you excited about that's coming out this year?
Ooh, oh man. Actually, this book is a little bit outside of my normal reading depth.
Okay.
I'm actually at my very core, if you can't tell by the shelf behind me, a fantasy girl. Like I am a
Mm,
deep fantasy reader. And so I have been deep in that side of things a little bit, but it's also in a weird place where I have just been experiencing so much more. I'm reading less. And so it's just like, okay, figuring out. But
You
one
mean
that
like
this,
actually like living?
yes, I was like
That's
living a
good.
little bit, which is so fun, going to some events and not just hosting them, those types of things. But one that I am super excited about that I think is very cool and is actually a good, like, if you're not a big fantasy reader, it's a great crossover because it's historical fantasy. It is coming out in January. It's Isabel Ibanez's new one called Graceless Heart. It's about
Grace's
a
heart.
girl named Ravenna who grows up in Italy and wants to be a sculptress, but has magic. It's fantasy, but magic, not a good thing. And a very powerful, kind of evil family kind of steals her away from her family and her city to use her
Mm.
powers against her. And it's again such a very hopeful story, such a fun one. Isabel came um early in September as the conversation partner for Rebecca Ross when we hosted her, who's another big fantasy writer and is absolutely hilarious. And her humor carries through her characters. We
Mm.
joke all the time. She has a YA duology. The first one is called What the River Knows. She writes characters that you are just anxious about the entire time you're reading them. Like they are so reckless. And the
Mm.
entire time you're just like, are they going to survive? And so she
What is
holds
it? Grace's what?
Graceless Heart by Isabel.
Graceless heart. And can
Yes.
I ask you just one last thing about that? Would you put, because I loved Yellow Face, would you put like Babel and Calabasas, or what's the name of the new one? The
Yeah,
next one? Is
Calabasas or
that sort of like,
Cabbages.
yes, in that world? And would those be, I loved Yellow Face. Should I read those in the order? If I want to try one of those, what should I do?
Yes, I would say fairly similar. So those actually lean more political fantasy, which is
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that. Um, I would say Babel would be a great one if you loved
Okay.
Yellowface to go
Okay.
to. It's a little bit more academic, dark. It's got magical elements, but it's not heavy on the magic. It's more heavy on the politics. And as someone who likes politics, I
Yeah.
think you love it. My absolute favorite political fantasy that I never shut up about is called Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare. It's this
Sword
bright
Catcher.
red one right here.
I don't
Um,
really know any of these books, so you could be opening
this
up a whole
one,
new world for me. Okay.
anybody who likes politics and character driven books should read this. It's the
Okay.
first in a series. The first two are out. And for a fantasy series, it's pretty known that they have what's called the sophomore slump, where like first book's great, second book, it's just building towards the rest of the series. The second book, The Rag Picker King, if not as good, better. I mean, just
Oh, good.
go
I'm trying to avoid the sophomore slump, Kai, myself. So
yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what she put in this. I think about these characters all the time. I read them
wow.
as an advanced copy in early 2023 before it came out in the fall of 2023. And since then, I mean, I talk about this book almost every day, genuinely,
Wow.
and the characters. And I have I have like my favorite books, and then I have my God tier books. And these are the ones that live fully rent free in my head. Like at any point, there's some way I'm going to weasel them into a conversation. And this is that
Wow.
one. So I would recommend
Okay.
this one for you.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sword
Amazing.
Catcher, Cassandra Clare, political fantasy. It's so cool. It also has a Jewish based magic system. Oh my gosh. You
Interesting.
will love
I
this.
didn't even I didn't even know, by the way, that political fantasy was a category of book. It is interesting, like it's kind of these different kinds of books can be kind of siloed. Like
Absolutely.
when you read Hazel, were you like, where's the magic?
I was like, I love a good contemporary fiction
Yeah.
every now and again. And also again, like Elizabeth and Allison, when they're picking books, you just anybody that works with them knows that we're all gonna love it in some way, shape, or form. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think there's been one that either of them have passed my direction that I haven't loved. And so, yeah, that it's not one that like if I were given the catalog, I would have,
Yeah.
if Hazel Says No was next to Swordcatcher and it was
Yeah, you'd
like
be like,
contemporary fiction fantasy, I'd be like, I'm reading Swordcatcher, you know?
but
But
that means
because
so much that you still liked it. I'm
yeah.
so glad that you read it. This was such a cool conversation. I learned things. I'm glad you reminded me about the No to Noah. And I'm so glad that Fabled is in Waco and that you guys are
Yeah.
reading Hazel.
Yes. Okay. Well, for the sake of everyone's time, this has been
Yeah,
so fun, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you. But I'm
amazing.
going to quickly announce our book club for next month. I don't have a copy with me, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. On November 11th at 7 p.m., we are talking with Michelle Honeven for her novel Bug Hollow. This has been one of Elizabeth's favorites of the year, and Elizabeth will finally be done traveling. So she says she's been traveling nonstop for the past like 2.5 months and should be back to chat with Michelle. And it's going to be so good. You can click the links to register and to buy the book from the shop, but it's going to be a great conversation. This one also came out this past summer alongside Hazel Says No. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we host a quarterly book review where we have about 1,500 people sign up every quarter for a big book review where we just have a list of 30 of our favorite books coming out over the next season that everyone on our management team kind of collectively puts together after spending months reading. And Hazel Says No was on the summer one, so was Bug Hollow.
I've
And
heard it's really good. I have it downstairs. It's on very close
yeah.
to coming up to the top of my pile. I hear it's
Well,
great.
if you read it by November 11th, you can
I
tune
can
into
join
our
in.
book club.
Hopefully.
We'd love to have you. But thank you again for joining us tonight. And thank you everyone who joined in. This was so much fun. I love chatting with you, Jessica. And again, we will send this recording out tomorrow. It's 24 hours from now. Zoom tells us what to do. We don't know. We don't know how to change the time. But 24 hours from now, the recording will be sent via email. We're also going to upload it to our YouTube channel to reflect on for future days and to share with future readers. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, if you ever come to Texas or the Waco area, we would
Yeah.
love to have you at Fabled.
Obviously, if I come to Texas, I'll be coming to Fabled. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for reading Hazel. This was such a great conversation. I'm really, really honored that you found the book and that you're sharing it with everyone there.
Absolutely. It's the best. All right. Well, everyone
Okay.
have a great night and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.